Hi, everybody. This is Martha Creek. You can contact me at marthacreek.com, where there's free videos, podcasts, a newsletter, ways to show up for events, to register, all sorts of teachings. It's all free out there. So this time that we've got together here are mentoring moments with Martha. So I'm interviewing people that mean a lot to me and that have been teachers for me in my own life and that I share a special relationship with. And we're devoting this time and energy that we're putting into this to be an uplift to humanity, to be a blessing to the world, so that if we are blessed in our own giving, that we also then say and know and affirm an absolute certainty that everything that changes us for the better changes it all for the better. And I've got with me a very special friend, Alan Scherer, who lives in Louisville, Kentucky, and who I've known for over 20 years. And he's a pastor in his own right, without an ordination or a formal training to be pastor, but he has clearly got a pastor's heart. And I've been able to navigate some pretty high winds of life with him over the years. And I thank you, Alan, for taking this time to come on here to share from your own wisdom. And I know from my own experience of you that you're absolutely committed to making the world a better place and the way of the world a better place. So thank you for that in your lifetime of living that out.
Thank you for all you do and for this time together.
So let's start in with, in your life, looking back in your life, there's certain things that usually happen in our life that put us on a certain path or that caused us to let something go. For example, it could be a job, a relationship. It could be you had an awakening. You know, other teachers say I had an awakening of some sort. So how would you describe your defining moments? Any defining moment? What was it? What was it like?
Well, I think we have probably many defining moments. One was the privilege of having a father who was very caring and always doing something for someone else. He was a scoutmaster, and one of the first defining moments probably in my life when I was about 12 years old, and in the 60s, there was a lot of segregation, and this lady came to the scout meeting and said she wanted her son to be a Boy Scout. And my dad said, of course, they happen to be African American. And some of the scout leaders said, if that boy joins this troop, we're out of here. And my dad said, I appreciate your service. And if that's the way you feel, this boy needs scouting more than anybody else. So nobody left. The boy became an Eagle Scout. And when my dad made his transition, I kept in touch with this young man. He was a Methodist minister in Western Louisville, and he came and did part of the eulogy, and he said, Al Scherer was not just my scoutmaster, he was my father. So the influence my dad had on me, he stood up for what he believed in, which is not always easy to do. And he didn't care what all these people thought that he had worked with for many years. He just knew this boy needed scouting as much as anybody else. So I think that was one of my defining moments. Then in high school, I had an English teacher that told me one time, you are my idea of a perfect gentleman. And that has stuck with me all my life. I think it is so important to open doors, to be kind, to be a gentleman. And I guess the next is when I came to Unity of Louisville. I had this internal struggle about my sexuality, and Unity of Louisville was very accepting and loving. And that's where I learned to like and love and accept myself. The next was probably, and a biggie, was when you, Martha, made a commitment to start a chaplain program, and I was fortunate to be a chaplain. My biggest fear that someday I might have to be around somebody that's making their transition. Well, guess what? Be careful what you ask for. All of a sudden, 2 or 3 or 4 people were making their transitions. Today, it prepared me for my dad's transition, which was beautiful. And today I know what an honor to be with somebody and open up your heart when they leave Earth, Mother Earth. So that really helped me to become the good person that I feel that I am today. That chaplain program, very, very important. And so my personal ministry has been to communicate, bring people together, and visit people in the hospital, go to funeral homes. And if the church is not on board with that, it can be Alan Scheer's ministry. And
I have witnessed it, my friend. Yeah.
well, you're the teacher. And then I think I was privileged enough to have a little bout with cancer. And I wanted to do something to give back to Norton Hospital. And the idea of the Hug-a-Bunny was born. And today we have delivered 4,500 stuffed animals to people in nursing homes, children with cancer. And it's one of the most self-satisfying things I've ever done in my life. So, and I still have defining moments that are coming that I don't know what they are yet. I'm very blessed to have a wonderful partner who loves me the way I am. I don't have to lose my identity. And sometimes he just shakes his head and goes on, but we're able to communicate and, but unity certainly taught me how to think positive, and that chaplain program actually changed my life.
Yeah. It's touching to hear, honey, and I remember it vividly. And I was so mindful then about who is going to serve as chaplains and what kind of team that will step up for that. So I was very, very specific about it. And I distinctly remember, Alan, you saying, yeah, I'm going to do this. I definitely want to do this, but I want nothing to do with anybody dying, or I don't want to be around any kind of dying energy. And I was like, oh, sure. No problem. Just come on in. And as you said, it wouldn't matter if anybody, to some people very close and dear to you, started dying. But I also watched you through that time develop your sense of presence. And not only did you avoid or think you had to avoid or that you couldn't bear the death and dying processes, that you stepped in to be minister to and pastor to and for people in their death and dying processes, including people very close to you and your most significant relationships at the time from your family, your daddy, when he made his transition, and that you were there in full presence for that. And who knew that what that was going to prepare us for back then. But I know that was a match for your heart and a match for your own mission for what you're here to do. So this 4,500 stuffed animals sounds like, 4,500 stuffed animals, but it's like that has taken so much planning and organizing and preparation and getting them delivered and navigating it. And what motivates me about that, I've made contributions to it every single year in one way or the other that you've been doing it. So that is very, very important to me, and that I take action to support your ministry and that I make contributions to it. And I think about, as we listen to some of them, those police people, some of the police officers that got that said when they have to go get little children out of homes, for example, out of abuse and domestic cases and situations like that, that those stuffed animals they could give to that child, something to hold on to, something to cling to as they were being removed out of very serious situations. And traumatized even by having to leave their families. So not to mention sick people, and particularly in those convalescent homes and nursing homes and rehab centers, where that was the last time that I was out with you delivering them. That was my delivery that day, and what that meant to those, and how I got to see young people in those older bodies and their preferences with, oh, can I have an elephant? Or, oh, can I have a whale? Or, oh, can I have the purple one? So their little kid energy was full and out there, even though their bodies were in a different state of that. So it's what I mean when you hear me say things like, we will never really know the lives that we've touched and the difference that it made in a life. So thank you for that, honey. Now, thinking about that, where besides your devotion, whatever your relationship with God is, or creator, whatever you call that, besides that, and your friends and family, which are your friends are family, that's what you've called them ever since I've known you. This is my chosen family, that these people that are closest to me are family, like family to me. Besides that, where do you draw from? What is the well you drink from that keeps you on your strongest, solid foundation? And you're on mute now, honey. Can you unmute you? There. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I think the first thing is you have got to love and respect yourself. And I never heard of or knew what meditation was until I went to Unity. So that's one of my spiritual practices every day. It gets me centered, and I think I never heard the saying before about focusing in the moment, in the now. And the truth is, that's all we have. So my meditation practices and being grateful all through the day. If you see your postman, either acknowledge him or to say, I am thankful for my postman. If you go through a drive-through restaurant, take the person that's waiting on you and say something nice. Well, how do you pronounce your name? That is really pretty. Or you have a nice smile. So I do all those things for me, and other people benefit also. But I think my getting centered with meditation is very important to me. And I love that you can praise and be grateful all during the day about everything.
Yeah, I happen to know that's one of your core values. You and I've talked about that over the years. It's one of my core values as well. And I actually believe that gratitude has a causative, generative energy. So then the more I'm grateful for what I have, the more I have to be grateful for. So the more I express and live gratitude, the more I experience things to be grateful for. So think back then about what else would you say are your core values, honey? What is it that you value the most and that you're dedicated to living aligned with that?
I think I have a good heart, and I can open my heart. And I've gotten to the point that because somebody has a different opinion, there's no right or wrong. They believe what they believe as strongly as what I believe. Mm-hmm. And to be able just to listen and not have to defend your difference with them. And a word that I guess I'd never heard of, maybe until I met you, was oneness. I am so convinced that I don't care what color your skin is, how tall you are, where you're from, we are more alike than we are different. And I love that word oneness. Now, when we get to the point as a country or a world that we can realize that we're all related, that it is going to be heaven on earth. But I love that word oneness. And if you can remember that every day, you're going to have a pretty good life.
Yeah, I love the word too, honey. And even if you're not inclined spiritually to believe in oneness, that you can, anybody, regardless of your religious beliefs, can see that we share things and we share things in our common humanity.
Yes.
And that we have differences, certainly, and that we have more commonalities than we have difference. And from a scientific perspective, it speaks to quantum theory and quantum physics that says anything that I do affects the whole. So then whatever I'm doing today in my life, what you and I are doing right here in this interview is making a contribution. So it's either uplifting, it's strengthening through a contribution, or it's depleting and degrading, weakening, if you will, as a effect. So it's like part of the mindfulness to say, then I'm going to be as mindful as I can to make sure what I'm speaking, the words I'm speaking, and the attitude I'm holding and the energy I'm conveying is going to be one of uplift. Believing that then whatever's happening in me, I'm also a contributor to what's going on in the mass. And that is when I didn't have enough self to care for myself, enough to do that. I had too much care for humans and for others to let it go too far.
Well,
now,
the truth is you have got to love yourself to love other people.
What is you mentioned heaven on earth and creating that, and we hear that from very spiritual teachers. So what is your definition of heaven and hell?
Well, I think it's internal. Peace is when you can love yourself and you like everything you do. If it's sitting on the back patio watching two cardinals that have a nest that I've loved watching this week, and the cardinals, of course, that's a whole different story. But heaven is when you are at peace with yourself and you can accept and love other people. Hell is when you are very judgmental, and you don't love yourself, and maybe you're pretty unhappy. So heaven and hell, and you have a choice. You really do. And I choose peace and heaven. And I've often said I have the best life of anybody that I know. And my wish is for everybody that I know and love that they can say the same thing and mean it. So you have to be content and happy with yourself, and then you can spread that out to the universe.
I got somebody asked me this morning this question. So, and please don't respond as somebody spiritual. Respond to what you believed when you were 6 years old. So when you were 6 years old, what did you believe you had to do to get to heaven?
Well, being raised in the Methodist Church, I think we believe that our minister and our parents, everything they say is truth, and we don't question it. So I knew in the Methodist Church that there were certain things that were acceptable, and anything that did not fall in line with that, it meant that you might go to hell. Your sexuality could be one of them. Some spiritual organizations think if you drink, you're going to hell. If you dance, you're going to hell. So I believed all that when I was young, that, God is my minister and God is my mother and father. Never doubt or question anything they say. And the truth is, they're all doing the best they can. And I loved it when I went to Unity, that I could be appreciated wherever I was on my spiritual journey. And I would be encouraged to question anything. So my spiritual thoughts are mine. They're not like any certain group of people, but they're very close to unity with the positive thinking. But when you're 6 years old, I think you just think your parents, everything they say. And the truth is, they're learning how to be parents. They're doing the best they can. And just the thought of saying, when I lay myself down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to take, that's pretty scary as a kid if you think about what you're saying. But yeah, as you grow and you start questioning things, heaven gets much nicer.
Yeah. How have you managed? One of the things that strikes me most and has most of my life, even as a little kid, was this extreme polarization of people that have and have not. So people that live extraordinarily lavish, opulent, billionaire, millionaire kind of level, and this money that's shored up and sitting around somewhere. And then the other extreme of that was somebody living off one potato a day or one piece of fish a day or 50 cents a day, and then the extreme of that, of course, which is starvation and imbalance in that. So how have you made sense of that kind of extreme that we witness in the world and in humanity, honey? How have you reconciled something like that?
Well, growing up, my mom, until I was 9 years old, she was in a family that they were poor. And my mom made a vow that her children would not live like that. So we moved to the suburbs. So most everybody that I was around, they were middle income. Uh, I wasn't around people in poverty, nor was I around people that I considered rich. Uh, so today, I think it's unacceptable as a country to what the way we divide people and put them in classes. It appears to me that the rich get richer, and we have people living in poverty and homeless people. That something has got to be done. These people are our brothers and sisters, and what we do to them, we're doing to ourselves.
Yeah. Thank you, honey. So I want you to speak a little bit about that, Alan. I want that on the recording here, that you have, besides Sister Mary Rhodes Buckner, Rhodey, you have served more volunteer hours and organizations than anybody I know besides her, and maybe as much as her, and I just don't know it. But she clocked her hours, and she was proud of them and how many hours she had served. So speak here about the various organizations you've served in your volunteer time, in your neighborhood associations, in your social work, with the aging, anything, all the ways you've served, the associations, and why you serve in those ways that you do all these years.
Well, I have to give my dad credit, because even as a young kid, uh, we were always putting baskets together and helping people, not just at Christmas. So I came from a volunteer family. So it became easy for me. Some people, it may not be easy. So I was involved with a group called Foster Grandparents. I was on their board, and most of these are African American women who donate their time to go into schools and do one-on-one work with special kids, or they might work at the spouse abuse center. So I did that for 15 years. I think every one of these is, when you have a passion for something, let me tell you, nothing stops you. The Home of the Innocence is a place here in Louisville for abused and abandoned and neglected children. So I did about 16 years as a volunteer, and I organized something called Christmas in July. Everybody wants to help somebody at Christmas, and then they forget about them the rest of the year. So in July, I would gather up people I worked with, my friends and neighbors. We would go to the home of the Innocents, put up a Christmas tree. We would have Christmas gifts for all the kids, and we'd grill hot dogs on the grill. Uh, you know, it's happy and sad to see children who have no idea what the word love means. And giving them a hot dog and a little present is, it is amazing. I got involved with our neighborhood association because I like the part of town that I live in. I wanted to do my part to make tomorrow better than today. So I've actually been involved for 30 years with that. I was involved with a place called Central State, which is off of LaGrange Road. And a friend of mine said, you know, these kids are troubled youth and nobody wants anything to do with them. So I said, I don't want to volunteer every day, but whenever, and they had a group of 9-year-olds, whenever a 9-year-old has a birthday, I'm going to bring my friends, we're going to have a cake, and we're going to celebrate that individual. So we did that about 6 years, and then that part of Central State closed. But that experience, one day there was a little boy, and I called him by name, and he had a helmet on. And I said, today is your special day. And he threw himself on the floor and took his head and banged his head on the floor. That just about killed me. And then I was told that's why I had the helmet on. And while it appeared that he wasn't very happy, I found out later he never had anybody that ever offered a birthday cake for him. Mm-hmm. And it's his way of responding to that. So I've been very blessed in these organizations. And again, when you have the passion for anything, you can talk about it for days and days. It is like your ministry and what you're doing. You love it, you have the passion, and it's in your heart. You can't help it.
Yeah, well, I've got to witness it, and I know there's more than that, because I know that there's awards on in your office and in your office place with volunteer hours and Bell Awards and Lord knows what else in that way. So what you've offered today, honey, is a thumbnail. So I would love that you continue to reflect on that in your own life about just how much a skin in the game you have put in to caring for humans and caring for humanity as a whole, and particularly some disenfranchised, or whatever the correct term for it is now, people that may not have had the kind of love and care and nurturing and connection and sane, sensible environments that we've had, that's had to live in some extreme situations and deal with extreme health, mental health, and emotional health factors too, that nobody could, that we still to this day can't make sense of to some degree. So my thanks for you is really unspeakable, honey. So I bow to you, and I'm wondering then if you were 90 years old or 100 years old, looking back to this time, what would that wise 100-year-old Alan say to this Alan?
I can honestly say that I learned to love myself, and I'm grateful for all the chosen family that guided me along the way. That I've learned that the universe, it's not just about giving, you also have to learn how to receive. People that you love, it's not just about doing things for them. They love you and they also want to do things for you. And just to be able to take that last breath, it doesn't mean that there may have been some things along the way that you may have handled differently, but the fact that you learn from those experiences and you can say to yourself, I like Alan Scherer for who he is.
Yeah. I'd say it's a life well lived, honey. Or if the words of God are true, well done, my faithful servant. So I believe at the end of our lives, honey, we're going to look back and be real tickled, glad we did, or really regretful and wishing we had. And I believe that you are living your life as I endeavor to do that, to be able to be the ones that look back that says, yes, we floundered. Yes, we had some boogers here and there, and we learned from them. And overall, we can be real grateful for the not only for the life we had, but how we related to the life we had, and gratitude.
And it's important to realize that we have earth angels here that that watch over us, and this is not anything that will surprise you, but you are definitely one of my most loved and biggest earth angels. And who I am today, you are one of several of my great teachers. And when I take my last breath, I will look at you and say thank you, and I'll just smile.
Wow. You've said thank you many times, honey. And for my part, you're welcome, and the feelings are mutual. And I was reading that this week, that Margaret Mead asked, what are the signs of civilization? So you may have read that too. And what she said is when she saw a bone that had healed. And I remember thinking, what in the world? Like, what's that got to do with it? Like, I had quite a response to it. And of course, she goes on to say that was indicators that somebody with a broken bone wasn't left to die, that somebody took them in and bandaged their leg up, if it's a broken leg, that their leg had been cared for, and that was a sign of civilization. So it's no little thing that we can offer care of any kind to another human being, particularly navigating health and cancers and challenges and losses and grief and mental things and emotional things and that loss and upsets, and that we can still bear the winds and the big energy force of that and still find a way today and every day to care for ourselves, and to do that so that we can keep ourselves caring for humanity, that we promote a conscious evolution, a civilization that that we're going to be glad that we made some contribution to.
One thing that I definitely have learned, a word that's no longer in my vocabulary, is the word coincidence. I don't believe that word anymore. So people that come into your lives, they may not stay there forever, but there's a gift that they've offered to you and a gift that you've offered to them. And while it's sometimes unfortunate to lose a friend, you can focus on what you had together and know that, there's something to be thankful in every relationship, something to learn.
It's beautiful, honey. Yeah. Anything. So if you had to, if you wanted to get a message to the world, what is it you'd want to convey? What do you want people to know besides what you've said already?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and I have said it, is by golly, we are all more alike than we are different. Period.
Yeah. So let's focus on what we have in common a little bit more than we focus on our differences, maybe.
Yes. And I could learn from you if I'm willing to listen to what you say instead of trying to defend how I feel.
Yeah, even in our differences. Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand how you might feel that way.
Yeah.
I don't feel that way, and I'm not judging you.
Yeah. Well, I am believing that there's more that believe that than we know about, even though we don't act that way somehow, that I believe that the majority, that we're at a tipping point in time where more people, and we get to see the human heart, and we get to see people, even in loss and grief and all that, still caring for somebody. And I'm inspired by it. And that's the way that you have inspired me since I've known you, honey. So I thank you for it.
You're welcome. And I'm loving if we would realize there's some great opportunities coming out of this virus, that maybe we actually have an opportunity to be kinder to each other and to Mother Earth. I see people with signs that say, be kind. Their kids are taking chalk and writing things on the sidewalks. And I hope it's something that just gets bigger and bigger, and it doesn't go away just because we find a cure for this virus. But people are very kind right now. And that's sweet. It really is.
Yeah, it is, honey. So I know one of your favorite songs is the word imagine. And I believe that it's an anthem for you, that it's actually Alan's anthem. And I also believe that it is Alan's anthem in action. So not just an anthem, but an anthem in action. And I bow to you for that. And it means the world to me, honey, to witness people who will turn an anthem into action, or who will turn an anthem into my assignment here on the earth. And that's what you are, and that's what you've done. So thank you for your time today. MarthaCreek.com if you want to contact me. Any closing words, Alan?
No, I would encourage everybody to get the words to the song Imagine, listen to them, and realize, wow, John Lennon had the foresight a long time ago to tell us what's best for the world.
Yeah. So amen. So together we imagine and take action. So imagine and move your feet, and imagine, and don't just deliver gifts at Christmas, deliver them in January, February, March, April, May, June, July, and August, September, October, November, December. So whatever we're doing, let's dial it up a notch for our own sake. So bye for now, folks. Stay tuned for more in the series of Martha's Mentoring Moments.